All right, so I had woke up in this kind of industrial kind of like facility area. It was kind of heavy with old rusted machinery. It was kind of reminiscent of like early 1900s, maybe late 1800s type machines where they have just kind of like belt driven. I guess they were like potentially like steam driven, coal powered. I don't know, equipment of some sort, but large flywheels and just kind of large cogs that kind of interlock together. Um, Everything was kind of seized up, unused, and just kind of broken down. It looked like an abandoned factory of some sort, but it was expansive as far as the eye could see. So I'm kind of walking along this floor. The floor and walls were just kind of like iron of some sort. And as I'm just kind of going down through here, so as I'm going down through these kind of hallways, it's just I keep hearing these kind of clanking, tinking noises. Just something you might hear in a factory if maybe you had like something just kind of rummaging around, I guess. Maybe little animals or something along that lines is kind of the vibe I was getting from this. I really wasn't much aware of what I was doing at the time. It was kind of more along the lines of I was here for a reason of some sort, but I really don't know what that purpose was for. But I just kind of had this urge that I should keep walking forward. So I'm continuing forward here, and it's just this expansive factory. I'm really not seeing anything of interest, but there's kind of corridors off to the sides. I can't quite see the ceiling, but it just there had to be something above me because it was dark. There wasn't any like starlight or anything of that nature coming in. So I kept glancing upwards, as expecting to see something, but it was just kind of machinery, really tall machinery that was probably about 4 stories, as in building heights tall. And occasionally there was these side corridors, and I came across one that was kind of more circular in shape, intersection, but instead of just a forward, back, left, or right, this intersection was more complex. I don't entirely remember, but there was, I like to say it was like six to 8 passages kind of going off in different directions. But in the center of this room was kind of this, I don't know how to put it. Kind of like, it was like a big lever. But it was like, the lever itself was probably like 10 feet long. It was gigantic, but it had this handle at the end with this kind of like pull lever, which I'm assuming, just thinking about mechanical systems, you'd have to pull the lever in to like unlock the whole thing, I guess, to pull it back. But it was kind of connected to this cog, just kind of giant cog that was in the floor, that only half of it was exposed, the top half. So like it was connected to a mechanism underneath. And I just, for some reason, I just knew I had to like pull on it. So I reach up for it, and just, the surface is just very aged, as if just kind of moisture and just decay of the structure has taken its toll. It was very rusty and rough, almost crumbling beneath my fingers as I kind of touch it and wrap my fingers around it. But it was like it was meant for something larger than me. So I have to use both my hands to kind of grasp the lever itself and kind of like the pull trigger. That I guess the pull trigger is kind of like an unlocking mechanism. And as I just kind of, I don't know, just kind of like squeeze it in with a lot of force, there's a little bit of the metal was kind of like breaking and bending, kind of in a rusty mess, but it finally gave way with this loud ka-chunk noise. Just the ka-chunk noise, just it kind of resonated through everything, through the entire facility, and the lever was it was I was able to move it. It wasn't difficult, but it also wasn't easy. It was almost like it was quite thoroughly seized up, but not so much that you couldn't move it. So I put my body weight into it, and I just kind of rear back on it and just start pulling it towards me. And sure enough, it starts to move and unlock. And just as it goes through like every, I don't know, about like 10-degree movement, I would hear this big clunk and thunk off in the distance. But each one was coming from different directions. As each 10-degree mark, I pull the lever, something else engages within the facility. And I start hearing kind of roars and rumbles off in the distance. And the further I go and the closer I get to fully pulling the lever the other way, it just seems like the whole factory is starting to come alive, or just coming alive. And the closer I get it to the end there, the more mechanical gear crunching, crackling systems as the whole facility comes alive starts getting closer and closer, as if the first notch activated something further away, and each consecutive notch was activating something closer and closer to me. Once I got it fully over, there was a final clunk and shattering of the machinery around me and started. But off in the distance, which wasn't too far away, I heard this just kind of grumbling roar, as if I've stirred something awake. I was nervous, just kind of stunned by, the whole factory was coming alive. But at the same time, I don't know. It's just like the factory just came alive, but the roar was not mechanical. It was something, like something was awoken by the machinery around me coming to life. And I kind of like look in the direction to where it was coming from, which was over my right shoulder, not quite behind me, but more kind of right, a little bit backwards. And the roar happens again, but this time it's closer. And it's not really a roar. It's kind of like, it was kind of like a really deep grumble, just a really throaty grumble, like a large creature was just growling, but it didn't sound like any growl I've ever heard before. At this point, I'm starting to get a little nervous, and so I heard this large, the grumbling kept getting closer and closer. But the closer the grumbling gets, it's seeming less threatening and kind of more inquisitive, as if whatever this was had been slumbering down in this decayed, rusted facility for time immemorial. I don't know, but I turn in the direction and back up a little bit, but I'm getting less scared despite the noises are getting closer. And the closer the noises get, it goes from less kind of grumbly and growly and like just menacing to kind of a more a yearning almost. Like it was really deep. Like let me see if I can do it. The first one was kind of like but like really, really deep to the point where it just kind of vibrates your to your bones almost. And but in loud, it just everything around me seemed to vibrate. But as it was getting closer, it was less deep and kind of menacing. And just I don't know. I just at this point I feel like maybe I should have ran down one of those passages since I was in that circular kind of cross section and I had many paths to choose from, but I chose not to. And it almost seems like the source of the noise was just beyond the shadows and peering at me. I could feel something peering at me, just kind of piercing me. But not in so much of a threatening way, more of a inquisitive way, I guess is the best way to put it. And I heard one last growl. And it just it sounded interesting. It just turned into kind of like more friendly, and then from the shadows, a green scaled face appeared. I used to play a game called Dungeons and Dragons a long time ago, and I haven't touched that game in forever. It just reminded me of a dragon. And it wasn't too big. It was probably the size of like, I don't know, like a sedan or maybe a small medium-sized pickup truck. And it just slowly, inquisitively kind of tilting its head to the side, tilting it up, tilting it down, as if it was just inquisitively inspecting me. I didn't feel scared or anything, which is interesting because usually in a case like this, I mean, you have this creature just kind of coming out on the shadows in this strange factory-like place with this humming machinery around you that's kind of grinding away, and all the old rust is kind of falling and working its way off. But in this random monster, I guess, just appears, but I felt kind of attracted to it for some reason. And it just inquisitively just keeps moving its way out of the shadows and into full view. This green scaled dragon was quadruped. Well, I can't really say that because it definitely had two rear legs and like two front ones, but the two front ones also kind of doubled like as arms and hands, I guess. They weren't quite the same. And it kind of reaches one arm up. It was its left arm and kind of grasps onto the machinery next to it as if a hand would. It has these long, sharp claws coming from it. It's just kind of gleaming scales in the light. And it just kind of stares at me and tilts its head. It has this big horn coming out of its snout, kind of like on the top near the tip. I kind of chuckled to myself because at the time I'm like, that's kind of cute. It has a horn, but it's a nose horn. It's a snorn. I just kind of chuckled to myself. I was like, I just named its nose horn a snorn. I don't know why, but I was proud of myself for some reason. But I just kind of giggled, and it was as if it kind of understood what I said, and then just it had this easy aura about it, as in it wasn't there to be rude or threaten me in any sort. And it comes closer, and I just kind of leaned back against some of the machine, trying not to be threatening. And just this dragon slowly inches itself closer and closer. And next thing I know, it's pretty close. Its body's still a little bit far away. The dragon has a bit of a longer neck, and it just kind of reaches its face out and just gets within feet of me, and I just hear this. It's kind of like sniff, sniff, snorf. Like it's just kind of like analyzing, like, what is this? What's this? What's this scaleless dragon or something doing here in my territory? But it's just being curious and inspecting what I am. And I started getting this kind of like sense the closer it got. And at this point, it has its tip of its nose like dang near under my chin. You know, normal person would be freaking out because this is a large creature, and under your chin on your neck is, I mean, it's a vulnerable position. I mean, you got your arteries and everything there. And I just started getting this sense that it's kind of embarrassing to say. It's a little weird. It's a shame Eric's not here. But I had this kind of like weird mental connection starting to develop with whatever this creature was, and it just kind of had this flash, this mental flash in my head that this creature, in fact, I mean, I know the face that I was just having these mental, like it was trying to communicate with me telepathically. And at this point, I'm at ease, and I reach my hand up and just kind of like pat the top side of its muzzle and behind its snout, just kind of gently rub, and it kind of does this weird grumbly cooing noises of like approval. And then I had just really intense kind of like visual, I guess, flash where it was almost as if a flashbang hit me. My physical vision was just kind of blurred out with a bright flash of light, but yet it's kind of like a third eye connection where I started getting these flashes of images. And I'm pretty sure it was Eric. Eric Gamer. This is the first time I've potentially met someone I've been talking to for a while on the real side. And they kind of reacted as if kind of approvingly, like, yes, you're understanding. But they couldn't use words. It was all kind of like a mental projection flashing in my own head, in my own mind. And it was reinforcing that this was Eric. So I'm a little confused because at the same time, surprised. Think this is actually really cool. Someone I've been talking to for quite a while, and that got me into this. I finally met them on the real side, but they're also not human. They're just really cool looking dragon. Like, holy heck, I'm a little jealous. But they're also communicating and trying to make me realize who it is. And just I let my guard down because it's like, well, this is Eric. Sure, we've had our differences, and that's fine. I mean, that's life. Adults make up. They go their merry way, whether that they continue to be friends or not. And Eric's been really good to me. Sure, we had some issues, but that's fine. Whatever. And at least in the here and now, in the dream, on the real side, I'm just, why am I gonna hold reality? Well, this dream this waking dream we're in as we are now in the real side. I mean, they're completely separate. So I try communicating back. I'm using words, and obviously Eric could understand what I'm saying. But at the same time, I'm getting more images. It's like, hey, just words are great. I can hear you. I can understand. But try focusing kind of like in between my eyes a little bit higher, kind of like where the third eye is, and just mentally direct my attention at whoever I want to speak to. And I tried that. I just kind of closed my eyes and it kind of felt like this vibrating pressure in between my eyes along my forehead. And it just kind of felt like my thoughts uploaded outwards and to Eric. And he just kind of moved around excitedly, going, "Oh, you got it on the first go at that." And I'm kind of understanding what's going on, and I'm realizing that I'm communicating back telepathically the same way Eric has been communicating to me, and it's, to me, I'm finding this really cool. I've never had an experience like that. It's like discovering like the sixth dimension for your first time or something like that. Something completely new that you don't understand, but yet here it is, and it's happening and working. And I'm getting excited. And Eric's just kind of approving and just nudges me with the side of their muzzle, just kind of like pressing up into me, kind of being friendly. And I'm just kind of chuckling, and we're just kind of having a mental conversation back and forth. I don't really remember the details of what it all was, but it was definitely friendly. There wasn't any negativity involved. There's Eric's kind of like show me how they do things, just by thought, without actual actions. Just don't. Oh, so what was Eric said? Eric said, "Just don't think, just do." And once I started focusing on that, things just became like it's just second nature to me. It was automatic. Just and if I remember right, Dwayne, you told us you just don't think about it too much. Thinking too much kind of clutters you up. And in this case, that seems to have been true. But just Eric just kind of flopped down in front of me in the middle of the floor and just kind of like beckoned me over, say, "Come on, let's just chill." So I'm like, "Okay, whatever." So he just kind of flopped down, and like I said, there's the rear legs and then the front legs, but the front legs are more like arms. Like, if Eric wanted to, they could walk around on two legs, and they had these big wings coming off their back, and I just kind of flopped down and just kind of sat back with my back against kind of like their chest area, like mid body, kind of like if you had a big dog, which you would do, kind of in between their legs, just kind of lay back on them. But in this case, it was a dragon, like the size of a car or pickup truck. They just kind of draped their wing down over, and we just kind of chilled and just kind of stared up. This is when things start going a little weird, I guess. A little embarrassing, but I mean, this is the first time I've properly met someone on the real side. If it wasn't for that, I want to be sharing this. We're just kind of chilling there, just idly chatting back and forth, and how cool it is that we finally found each other on the real side, and how neat it was that how quickly I'm kind of picking up over. I guess I kind of got the assumption that the way we're speaking telepathically was like some sort of thought speech or thought speak or something like that, and just kind of giving me the runaround on how it's used and what's going on, and just kind of randomly just talking about just silly stuff, nothing in general. But I'm just kind of like stretching back, arms kind of like splayed out in a Y, and just kind of laid my back up against them, and well, I just started getting this. This is when things get weird. This kind of like thought pattern, I guess, or aura from Eric. I mean, it wasn't menacing or bad or anything. It was just a little weird, but I just had this I don't know, this I just had the sensation that I should kind of like observe around me a little bit more. And Eric's starting to act a little more weird there, and just I don't know. I just had to look around, and I'm not really seeing anything. I'm kind of looking around the facility around me. Eric's just starting to give out this other weird vibe. It's not bad or anything. It's just different. And I remember kind of moving my arms out of my side a little bit, just kind of still resting back with my elbows outward, and my left elbow bumps into something. And I'm not quite sure. It's like, oh, it's just like their leg or something. But sure enough, Eric seems to be getting an erection. I don't know if it's because I'm laying against their belly. Oh, God, don't do that. Please don't do that. This is embarrassing enough. It is Dwayne at little d. But, well, Eric's getting a little excited. And I guess it explains kind of like the weird aura change. And, I mean, when I say excited, his penis was present. But it was weird. It was kind of coming out of like, it looked like the soft scales underneath kind of parted, and it was like kind of a tapered shaped, I guess, appendage. I don't know. Things got weird, but
you can kind of skip over that a little bit. Okay, so we get the idea. You don't have to describe everything, Phil.
okay.
Yeah, just kind of go over that stuff, and just,
Okay.
that's all. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just do, instead of going into detail, I'll just kind of glance over it. Well, Eric was kind of projecting thoughts in my head, and like, hey, we're on the real side. Just enjoy yourself. And one thing led to another, and I'm kind of grabbing onto his member. I'm not gay. I've had multiple wives. I have a child, and so I don't. To me, this was a dream. I don't know why this was going on, but I'm doing what's called prodding, with a giant dragon's cock that's like damn near the size of my body. But one thing led to another, and we both kind of finish. Dragons come a lot. I don't know what can I say. And that was pretty much the end of it. And Eric kind of thanked me, I guess. I guess he was kind of stressed out or something, and he tests me once more with the thought speak and see if I'm still proficient at it, and we're going back and forth a little bit. Eric kind of comes in and gives me a little nudge and kind of licks me up the neck and face a little bit, and just kind of like dissolves away into nothing. Just poofs, gone. And at this point, I'm kind of left there a little shocked, like, what the heck just happened? It's like, I'm pretty sure I just frauded with a massive dragon dick. But regardless of any of that, at this point, I just kind of stare off, confused, kind of coming back to remembering that I'm in this weird factory, and the next thing I know, I'm waking up. And actually, and that's pretty much a dream. I'm actually kind of glad Eric's not here, because that would have been embarrassing as hell. But that's the first time I've ever met anyone on the real side, so I felt it was a little bit more, I guess, important, since that had never happened before, at least to what I'm aware of. All right, I'll embarrassingly mute myself now.
Yeah, no, it's fine, Phil.